Hi, I'm Edward. I'm a security engineer at Prisma, and I work on the platform. You're here today to listen to me talking about security a bit, but I want to start with a car example. So let's say you go into a dealership and you want to buy a new car. You're going to think about color, you're going to think about pricing, you're going to think about number of people. You're going to walk into a dealership and you're going to talk to the salesperson. And you're going to talk about air conditioning because, your significant other has different temperature needs than you do, and you care about this. You're going to talk about cars, parking sensors. You're going to talk about keys and how you get into your vehicle. And then, at this point in time, you're going to ask yourself, well, am I actually in the right stream? You said you're going to talk about security and you're talking about cars. We'll get to that in a second. Did you notice that at no point in time you actually told your car dealer, well, I would really like the car to not kill me in an accident? You didn't, because you just didn't have to, because that's the thing that just goes without saying. That wasn't always the case. In early car models, the steering column was basically one solid metal rod, and if you had an accident, just went straight through you. Engineers figured that out and changed that, and now cars are way safer for it. Those things that go without saying, those are called non-functional requirements. Functional requirements are all the things like keys and air condition. Non-functional requirements usually are not talked about that much. You just don't talk about them because you take them for granted. Just as we in the platform keep your data safe and you don't even have to talk about that. If we look at IT now, we had in pre-agile days whole departments that were just dedicated to those processes, to those non-functional requirements that are so vital in software engineering. And those processes that they governed were really large. To be honest, that never really worked so well. And in today's world, with our speed of change, you basically have no chance in getting this working with these methodologies. Now, enter capital A, Agile. No matter how I'm going to define Agile, I'm going to rub some people the wrong way, but for the purposes of this talk, let's just agree on this definition. Agile is about feedback early and often. That means the only good code is code in production. It's about small batch sizes, and it's about iterations, iterative development of your product, of your people, and your processes. It's also about ownership of the people that do the things. It has the concept of, if it hurts, get good at it, do it more often. And it is essential that you inspect and adapt what you are doing to how things evolve. If we go to our car example, and this time look at it from the car safety engineer's perspective. In your classical model, you got your specification for your car, and then you had months, sometimes years, to look at that and come up with your safety and security requirements. But with today's speed of change, well, you get the drawing of an axle, and you have to work on this, knowing that it's already being produced and that it might change in 2 weeks' time. So how do you go from this to that? In IT, the change needs to be radical and through all parts of your organization, not just to your security organization. It's about the team that takes on security responsibility and understands that this is now part of their daily life and work. About your product owners that give the team time to actually do this and also puts in requirements that capture their security requirements. And it's for security to adapt and enable, accept this change and help people get this into their workflows and daily lives. Now, let me just give you a short intro on DevSecOps, which is a very fancy term that's thrown a lot around these days, but it's also ill-defined. If we look at the DevSecOps space, you basically have 3 major functions. One is infrastructure maintenance and building of infrastructure. That's usually a separate team. Then there are people that build tools that allow your dev and ops people to operate safely, securely, and compliant. And then you have the incident response and critical response functionalities that support your teams. While classical operations is usually about mean time between failures and trying to get that big, DevSecOps is more about mean time to recovery, which means we accept that there will be accidents. We accept that there will be things that go wrong. But we try to keep the effects of that minimal. Short downtimes, in our car example, the minimum injury that could potentially exist. There is one thing that you need to understand as a primitive here. You can minimize risk, but you can never get it to absolute zero. The second thing is compliance and security are related concepts, but they are not the same thing. So how do you get this cultural shift into your company? There are some steps you can take. They build on each other and they help each other out. One is to have your security specialists consult your teams early and often. Make them part of the reviews, especially of security critical features. Put security testing into your build and deployment pipelines for applications and infrastructure. Make sure that the risk that is taken on by a team is visible to that team where they work. That means in their backlog. And build tools and processes that allow your people to be compliant and secure by default. Make it easy for them. If you can only go for one of those things, make sure that it's the engagement part. Okay, so how do I get from this to this brave new world? Well, let's look at our example again. We have our car safety engineer, but instead of sitting at her desk all day long, every day, she's now in the mornings interacting with the designers and the people that specify the car to get them on board with right door sizing, for example, to make people able to get out in an accident. In the afternoons, she's on the shop floor, helping the workers that assemble the car improve their tooling and their quality assurance. And once a week, she's out at the test range, throwing cars at walls at 100 miles an hour, taking the information she gathers there back to the people that design and build the cars. This type of integrated mindset and this type of workflow and living environment, this culture is what we live here at Prisma to deliver you the safe and secure platform that you experience, and that goes without saying.